Hello, and welcome to the Deluxe Mixing Podcast. And welcome to the last episode of the year. Welcome back if you've been here before, and hello if it's your first time. So today I'm going to continue on the topic I covered in Adventures in Mastering, Part 1. And this one, surprisingly, is called Adventures in Mastering, Part 2. Amazing. So following on from that adventure, we arrive here at the tail end of 2024. And what really is the best mastering service or option we have right now? This is the current mastering landscape. So we have pro mastering houses still exist. Every weasel in the world who has a DAW and plugins offers mastering. And the third category is the robots have arrived. And there's kind of a fourth category. What mastering? Don't you just do that as well when you mix? So today it's very common, especially at the more budget end of the pond, for people to expect a mix and master by default. However, this is less than ideal, and here's why. First of all, you can't really correct for defects in your own mix that may have been influenced by the room in the same room as you mixed it. I hope that makes sense. Now you can be sneaky and you can use alternate monitoring, headphones, different monitors, different speakers. Although if you're in the same room, the room issues will still be the same. And this brings me to number 2. No matter what you'd like to believe, your judgment is skewed and you mixed it like you did. Mainly because you liked it that way. You have one set of ears, one brain, and music, like all art, is kind of subjective. So what are you going to do? Unlike the way the bass sits? If something is weird at this point, your mix probably isn't done, and it would be better to go ahead and tweak it. It's very difficult for you to make that decision if you believe everything's okay as you sit in your less than ideal non-mastering grade room. Unfortunately, lots of my work has fallen into the category where I can't talk a client into investing into mastering. Now, when that happens, I apply the rule that I borrowed from watching real mastering engineers master, which is basically do no harm. If I hear something really off, I try and tweak it, but generally what gets put out is more or less the same as the mix, but louder. Now, I get away with this, as my mixes are pretty solid if I don't say so myself, and I always offer other options to clients, as trust me, I would love all of my work to be mastered elsewhere. So what about the every weasel with plugins offers mastering option? Well, in this area, there's going to be the good, the mid, the bad, and the downright ugly. And it's up to you to find the good people amongst these. It's totally possible to do great in-the-box mastering, and some people do. It comes down to finding someone capable who cares versus someone who runs it through, I don't know, an ozone preset and calls it done. Which, to be honest with you, is still sometimes better than the kind of person who puts 10 plugins on a bus because they feel they need to do that to make a master. This is maybe the trickiest area, as you can go on something like Fiverr and find people who will do it for $10 or $20 or $25. Or if you find someone super good, you'll almost pay as much as some real pro mastering houses. I find a lot of people in this category tricky and generally do too much and end up doing more damage than they do good. Remember, it's always the ears and the experience and not the tools. Let's talk about the robots. Let's talk about AI. Things like Lander. Waves have a mastering service. E-mastering. Slate has a mastering service. While AI is amazing, the problem with automation-based mastering, that's what I would call it rather than AI, I'm not sure how intelligent it is at this point, is it can't really hear what you did other than a very macro overview kind of way. So they can apply an EQ curve and dynamic processing based on the input, which really does work to a surprising degree, but they can't really apply an artistic decision Or maybe hear what you screwed up. Is it supposed to be insanely bass heavy? Maybe it is, based on the genre. It also can't tell things like maybe does your track need a 1 dB lift in the chorus? Would that be the artistically correct thing to do? It's kind of hard for a machine to do that. And they can't often, when you're working on multiple track projects, differentiate between a kind of more mellow, let's say, acoustic track and the banger intended to go next to it. So the quieter, more mellow tracks end up being kind of twice as loud as this track, which is supposed to be loud, which is a big drawback. Well, they also currently, at least in my opinion, mostly don't sound that great. Almost free mastering has its limits. Acceptable parameters the decisions are based on will never have artistic vision. Or maybe in time will they? I don't know. All this said, for one-off songs or EPs of similar tunes, sometimes it works. I've heard better results than from most of these plugin dudes from some of these AI services like Aria, for example. Lastly, let's touch back on pro mastering houses. As you maybe figured out in the first mastering post, these vary a lot too. I've used maybe 20 of these over the years. Places I would call major mastering houses, with almost always good results. It's every audio douche kid's dream to have the Abbey Road treatment, surely. But you know what? I'm not picking on them, but Abbey Road mastering used to lean heavily on the seriously conservative side of things sonically, and I've heard some not so great work from there. Over the years, I've found several people I like and trust, and they all generally have professionally designed listening environments, top-notch analog gear, and most importantly, the experience. And that's the thing, you can't buy experience or taste. 95% of the time you'll get a great sounding master you can have confidence in, even though, in my opinion, they charge way too much for the time invested compared to what I have to do as a mixer. They're also not infallible, and as they are humans, have different styles. One who is a very famous, we won't call him a YouTuber, but he's famous on YouTube these days. He once sent me back a mono master. Now, he's great at aggressive music, but apparently doesn't listen to the final file sometimes before he sends it back. That's a fail. Another popular American guy sent me a master that massively ducked every time the singer hit an S and didn't seem to notice. And he didn't come back to me and say, "Hey Adam, why didn't you DS that better? Get your act together." Which is another one of the benefits of working hand in hand with a human mastering engineer. Sometimes they can help you up your game and remind you if maybe you make a mistake that's best off fixed in the mix and not the mastering stage. Now, he wasn't particularly graceful when I asked him to fix it, and he won a Grammy a few years later. So maybe good guys finish last, who knows? Well, I never used him again, but I have built relationships with people who I think are truly great. I do know, 100% sure, that the finest sounding work I've ever done has gone through the traditional route and been mastered by a real human. So, hey, perhaps yours should too. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion, and as always, feel free to give me some feedback, or if you have any ideas for future topics, I would love to hear from you. Have a great holiday. This is coming out around Christmas 2024, so I wish you and your family all the best, and I'll see you, hopefully, back here next year on the pod.